and action. Hello, everybody. This is the From the Outside Looking In podcast, and I am Ricky Gleason, aka Ricky James, and you are.
I'm Earl John Charlton, born in South Shields, made on the streets.
There you go. I was born in Slough. Made
Someone
in
has
South
to
Shields?
be.
Yeah, no, born in Slough. Yeah, someone has to be born in Slough, don't they?
Way aye.
Born in Slough. South Shields is probably where I class as home. I don't know. It's a tricky one. But yeah, I don't get homesick for Slough. I know that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm homesick at the moment. I haven't been home for ages, so I'm homesick at the moment. But for the northeast, for Newcastle, and maybe not for some of the people in South Shields, I certainly don't. I'd never live there again. Anyway, another podcast and places we've lived, places we've stayed.
Man.
Some of the places we've slept. I have slept in places that some people wouldn't piss, I reckon.
Yeah, been a few of them places, lad.
What was I going to say? Where's the first place you sort of slept, kind of thing? After the children's home, like
after the children's home.
Once you were out and that's it, you were into the big bad world.
It would
like sort of kicked out the house or whatever. When I was kicked out of the house, I ended up a bed and breakfast down in South Shields after my friend James Collins, his mum, then got me a bed and breakfast down in South Shields, which we get onto them places because some of them were absolutely horrific. Where was yours?
Actually, funny enough, Beach Road, top of Beach Road, right hand side, Davy's place.
Davy. Oh, what was his name?
I can't. Do you know what? I only spoke to him 2 days ago.
What was he a landlord?
He used to be, but now he's basically in the same situation I was in. Addiction, lost everything. Yeah,
I've heard this. Yeah, I've heard this. We won't mention his name, but
no.
I've heard this. I've heard this because I used to be in some of his places as well, and he had a load of places, and I mean, some of them were awful, like some of the worst places that I've ever seen.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And that was his thing, basically. He bought up a load of properties and rented them out to all of the people that were struggling and desperate, and everybody was on housing benefit, and they were dangerous. I saw plug sockets that were hanging out of the walls. They were absolutely filthy. They were damp. Like there was rain coming in. They were freezing cold. The lights didn't work and shit. It's just mad that
it was horrible. And he had his big bouncer bloke that come around and call Emma.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But that's it. And then I've heard that it all went wrong for him, and that now he's sort of in the same place that we were when we were renting off of him. So that's a bit mad.
Yeah. So he's in the busy supported housing now. You know, so it's big swings around. I remember seeing him 2016, this gentleman, and it was the back of Morrison's where his mum lived. And at that point, he still had his Jag because he always have big cars and that. But he didn't look too good. And he told me, he said, I'm sort of in the addiction cycle. And then as this last since now, last year he looked a mess. But he looks a bit better than what he was. But he's still in that cycle, man. It's just fucking swings and roundabouts.
I mean, obviously he was profiteering off of other people's situation.
Karma.
Yeah, it is karma. I don't believe in karma. I think I disproved it once. But we'll get into that another time. But yeah, I still wouldn't want to see somebody in that situation. But it is mad how it's gone from, because he had a good 6 or 7 places as well. And a lot of people in each one. But yeah, anyway, as I was saying, some of those places were some of the worst places I've ever stayed. And I'd turn up at places that shared rooms and stuff, like with people that you didn't know. It was grim.
Yeah. After that, for me, though, it was I think it was Fife, a little village called Salin. I stayed in the moors for about 2-3 months in a tent.
Right.
Yeah, just me, 15, 16-year-old.
What, just living off grid?
Living off grid, mate, and I used to go into Dunfermline, which was 10 mile away, to the job centre.
I know Dumfries really well. I know Dunfermline really well because when we was on the QE, that's in Rosyth, and the closest town's Dunfermline.
Yeah,
and we used to go to Dumfries all the time. Dunfermline was quite nice.
It was lovely.
It's all right.
It was a nice place, but that's where I through there. I used to go to the job centre and then travel 10 mile back and just stay in my tent with bits and bobs and some cans and a bit of dope at the time.
Yeah, my missus tells me off, right? She has to reel me in because I honestly think that, if it all went wrong, right? I'm leaving the Navy. Say I leave the Navy, it doesn't work out. My missus is like, I'm sick of you. I've had enough of this, and kicks me out. I think I'd just go live off grid. Like when I set that charity up, I got in touch with a guy called Star, and he lived on a single decker bus that he bought for $1,500. And he'd spent over the years about $3,000 on this bus. And it was his home, and it was amazing. And then obviously I look online and I met a lot of people. I didn't realize how many people live off grid, but right under our noses.
Yeah.
A lot of the time they're living on trading estates. And a lot of the time, if you go into a trading estate and you see like horse boxes parked up on the side of the road, usually they've been converted and somebody's just living on a trading estate off grid, no bills. But some of these, some of them are spot on. I could quite easily handle that if I didn't have children to feed.
That would be our ideal. Middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Oh, middle of nowhere on a converted bus, away from everyone, just chilling out. Obviously, my wife won't let me do that because we need to educate our children and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Apparently.
Has to be done. That's what you think. What is it called? Parenting?
Apparently, yeah. You're
Something
supposed
like that.
to. Yeah, your kids. As a kid, you're supposed to go to school. That's what's supposed to happen, and then you leave school and get a job, and whatnot. But what was you saying? What was you saying? Where else? So bed and breakfast. I lived in some of the worst bed and breakfasts ever. I think Nassi was just saying that he can remember a place, and they were some of them were just awful, man. Like that, like I said, damp, cold, minging affairs. And what else I found is that the house and benefit would pay so much, and then they would want so much rent out of your actual gyro. This was back in the day when you got gyros. I think it was a universal credit. That you're completely trapped because you never had enough money. Like people are like, oh, why don't you go get a job? As soon as you got a job, your rent would go up to and this was in the early 90s. You rented all of a sudden be like, oh, right, it's now £150 a week.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And, you're looking, I'm looking to earn £170 a week. So I'm going to be worse off now if I go and get a job. And then on top of that, you would get your gyro and you would have to pay a certain amount out of your gyro on top of the housing benefit they would get. And then you would only be left with enough to stock up your food. Do you know what I mean? And you wouldn't have enough, even if you wanted to go and get a job, you wouldn't have enough to go and eat. And it just become a horrible cycle. And people live like that for years, didn't they? People live in digs, is what we used to call it. A little room in a shared house, not even a shared house, like sort of bed and breakfast.
Well, I remember some of the places, Ricky, used to say we used to give some of our own money into the landlord, so housing benefit. And I remember a few of the places used to serve you breakfasts. Yeah, and all I can remember getting is a carrier bag with a loaf of bread, half a dozen eggs, a cheapest ever box of fucking cornflakes, and some milk, which would be long life milk, tea bags and sugar, and that was supposed to be what you're paying for, your own money. I know that I stayed in places where they would put on a breakfast, and it would just be put, but because they could then claim more money off of the house. I mean, it was just bollocks, some bad places. But going, I don't know about yourself, but you said you slept at one point. Was it a flower?
I slept in a porta-cabin. Yeah, so some of the. It's funny because some of the worst places I ever slept, which we were talking about before, were either bed and breakfast, like actual places that I was paying for, right? Or they were like people's, when people would be like, oh, mate, if you need someone to stay, come and crash at mine. And you'd be like, all right, sound, I'll come and crash at yours. And then you'd get to someone's flat or whatnot, and you'd look around and be like, dude, you live like a tramp, man. It's disgusting. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Some of the worst places I slept were inside. I don't think I ever really slept in a terrible place when it was outside. There was that porta-cabin, which was a flower porta-cabin that, like I said before, it was at the back of a florist. And it was where they put all their flowers on a night time. When they took them out of the shop, they would put them in this porta-cabin round the back. This was in Slough. And I was, at the time, the porta-cabin was up against the fence. There was a gap like so. Because I was about 7.5 stone, You know, if my head could fit through it, I was like a cat. If my head could fit through it, I could get in. And I used to sort of slide down the side of it and then open the porta cabin window and crawl in. And like I said, it was lit. It was heated because the flowers were in there and it smelled really nice. And I used to sleep in there and then get up in the morning, close everything up and be gone. And, you know, I did that for about, you know, maybe 6 months on and off.
Well, when we talk about you stay in the shitholes that we slept in, apart from the B&Bs and like me saying I was sleeping in a tent, I never seen myself or thought myself as homeless until after I went on the heroin and then become drug addict homeless, if that makes sense. So from 14 to 18, I was just like a free spirit. I had my tent, I was off, I was on the road, I was going to a little I'll go like outdoor festivals or something like that, you know, and hitchhike around the coasts. But when I actually become homeless, like in Bristol, it was even at 19, I was shit scared. And it was something I never knew. So I had no experience of best places to bed down. I didn't know the safest place to go, a soup kitchen to go to, or anything like that. So basically, I was doorways and stuff like that, and it was scary. It obviously, over the years, I gained the experience to go and find and seek and source better places. But initially, mate, you know, you can talk about the B&Bs in the beginning, we talk about going in a tent, which was lovely, and traveling around. But when it comes to like actually sleeping rough on the street, first proper time of being around Bristol, it was horrible. It was scary, mate, because you sleep in doorways and you see all these people going by on Friday nights, heckling at you, and you're vulnerable with addiction that you don't even know what the addictions are. It was, so that's one of the places for me, mate, you know, until obviously the cycle goes on.
Mine would be that it would, you know, and there were times where, you know, there'd be a group of us out. We were only young, obviously. We were like 16, 17, and we'd all be out. And then, you know, eventually it started getting to the evening and I'd realise I've got to find somewhere to sleep. And that's when I'd have to start asking, whoever was out, I'd have to start asking people sort of one at a time, is there any chance I can keep on your couch tonight, etc. And there'd be times where, for whatever reason, nobody could put me up. And that's when my heart would sink, like you said. And it's just like, shit, I've got to find somewhere to stay. And that's when I ended up staying in like places like I would sleep in that the scrapyard that's not there anymore. And they're broken down. They had sort of a broken down lorry in it, and I used to just sleep in the front of it. And there was like, I used to sort of bed down on the floor because I was so small then as well. I could sort of bed down on the floor, like where the driver's feet would go, because it was a truck kind of thing.
That's the place you said that you got caught at.
I didn't get caught. I ran out in the morning. Like, it was just one of them. So I used to sleep there, right? It was cold as well. And they sort of had these, they weren't blankets, sort of like rugs that you put your feet on. And I used to pull these things over me on the night time. Like, and just sort of, like I said, I was so small. I was all skin and bones. I was about 7.5 stone. I'm only 5'6" anyway. So I could just sort of, you know, curl up into a little ball and be warm all night. But then, I'd get up in the morning and get out again before anybody opened. And one morning I slept in. I must have had a nice sleep. And I slept in. And then I realized they were outside. I could hear people moving about in the scrapyard and realized that I'd slept in and that they were at work. And, you know, at first I was sitting in there thinking, what do I do? And then it's like, well, I can't just wait all day. You know what I mean? I've got to go. So, I just sort of dove out the door, quickly run past them. And I remember like the shock of some guy looking at me like, what's going on? And I sort of shouted, I'm sorry, I'm homeless. I slept in there. Won't happen again. And I ran off. And I ran off because I thought, they're going to catch me and fill me in or something. Do you know what I mean? And it's only now that I look back and think, I very much doubt they would have. You know what I mean? Most people in that situation, it's not like I was breaking into their actual place and stealing. You know, I was sleeping in a broken down truck that just happened to be there. And I'd like to think that they would have been a bit shocked and said, we'll give you a cup of tea, mate. But
they probably would have. They probably would have.
You know what I mean? Most normal people would, but I legged it. I just ran off to my mate's house.
Yeah, it's your natural instinct, flight. Fight or flight in that situation.
So that was one place that I slept. I'm trying to think of other places. The porta-cabin. I slept. One of my low points. This was when I was smoking heroin. I'd gone back to Slough after Bristol, and there was a restaurant that had closed down on Slough High Street. And I'd found a way in the back upstairs, and I was sleeping above this closed down restaurant, and it was all just floorboards. and you know, a few other people that used heroin. As happens, you all sort of gravitate towards each other somehow, don't you? Like once you're in that lifestyle, and they were like, "Oh, can we come back there and, you know, smoke heroin there? We'll sort you out." But people, you know, there was one room that I was sleeping in, and we were smoking heroin, and then going into another room and just puking up everywhere, because sometimes heroin would make us feel sick. Do you know what I mean? And then,
that's what it
so I
does
was
to
in
you
one
first.
room. I'm in one room, just like blankets on the floor, floorboards kind of thing, like, and then another room that people are being sick in, and that was probably a low point in my life.
Yeah.
And then other than that, sorry, I don't mean to, other than that, the worst places I ever slept were hostels, mate. Hostels.
Well, there's a few things we'll pick up on this one there. So, like, private landlords have definitely got a lot of answer for, you know.
Back then, yeah.
Not even now, Ricky. You mean
Right.
the property I was in, environmental health had to take legal action, you know, because such disrepair, and that was the second property to give us both disrepair people there. Basically, humans couldn't live in it, they said.
Yeah.
But also getting to this, we'll get the private landlords and that, because we need to cover that. Because of disgrace that the amount of money they take and the council pay it and don't vet the properties. They just say, yeah, we'll go A, B, C. They don't look at them. They just hire you in there and they take the money. But one of the places that you'll see on the photo, and I'll send you one of my lowest points, was do you know the 20p free toilets?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it'll be back at Liverpool Street. And
is this in London?
Yeah, Liverpool Station. So at the back of Liverpool Street there, Bishopsgate Police Station, there was a 20p toilet, and I found a way of getting 20p toilets for someone safe to not just to sleep, but also safe to use. Because it used to open after 20 minutes, but there was a little thing that you could do. If it opened and you stayed in a certain position, it would close, and it would close all night. So I'll show you them images and that, man. But when you're to the street, when I first went on the street, and I said I was scared and bristling, that years went by, and then I found out when I was on the street, some of the places that you had to stay were in public view. So sometimes you say get out of the way, out the back streets and down into the bin sheds. If you're on your own, that's unsafe. So, like, one of the images that you'll see Barbican Station, and you'll see a guy sleeping down in a sleeping bag on the right-hand side of that image. And as I say, today, I took that photo a few days ago from Google Earth, and nothing's changed inside there, because that's where I used to sleep.
Still someone there,
yeah, but I used to sleep there because I know it was busy. It was in the city.
You
know, with all office people. If it was like somewhere else, just say like maybe Shoreditch or somewhere that where it's a different group of people around there, I wouldn't have slept so openly. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, total. So I set that charity up in Yeovil when I was based at Yeovil about a year, and I think we worked out it was about 2 years ago now. But I set a charity, a homeless charity, which was the worst thing I've ever done. But I'm glad that I did it. But I'll never do that again. But anyway, I digress. We went out. A lot of the rough sleepers sleep around there or thereabouts around the shopping centre, and we got speaking to me and the guy that set it up, a local businessman. Excuse me. We went and met the security guards of the shopping centre. And obviously they were there 24 hours, these security guards. And these guys were really nice guys. And they explained to us that they sort of knew a lot of the homeless people and would make sure that the homeless people that were sleeping rough would sleep in doorways that their CCTV was on, so that they could keep an eye on them. Do you know what I mean? And this is just two security guards. It's not their job to do that. Their job was to keep the shopping centre secure, but they sort of took it upon themselves to say. And then I found out, because I'd always wondered, why are you sleeping here? Why aren't you going up into the woods away from everybody?
Yeah.
They was all saying the same thing. We're safer here because if anybody starts on us, you know, if we start getting any grief, we're being looked at by CCTV, and people can come and help us.
I saw it was cool.
You know, and again, this is something I didn't really experience because I didn't sleep rough like that. I always broke into somewhere and slept somewhere, and it was never a long time. I think that porta-cabin's probably the longest I've ever been somewhere. Around the back of Slough Job Centre, there was sort of one of those sort of electrical cupboards. You know, there was like a door, there were electrical components inside, and I managed to get that open, and I slept in there for a couple of months. That was bang on. That was like what you were saying. I had a plug socket, I had a light.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That was, and literally nobody knew I was there. So there was a point somebody brought a kettle down for me. We went and found this little foam mattress and had that in there. And that was literally, I could have lived there like sticking a dump for years and nobody would have known. But my point is that I was never in that position where I didn't realize that as a rough sleeper, you get started on so much by members of the public, drunk arseholes. Obviously, you see video clips and that of people doing it, and you read about it, and it's something that you hear people getting their sleeping bags set on fire. There was that guy that spray painted a sort of homeless beggar, put spray paint all over him, and then the beggar killed himself a week later, and then he got chased out of his street, quite rightly. I didn't realize that was never an issue for me, but obviously it was for you.
Do you know what I've seen? I've seen both parties. I've seen the good and bad of that. So, like for instance, Charterhouse Street Fabrics in London, Farringdon. So I was sitting at the cash points, and I used to get some people used to give me stick, but I used to also get more people stick off. And proper shame them sort of thing, but like an isolated incidents and that, if I've been in doorways and that, I've literally, Ricky, I have woke up at people pissing on me sleeping blanket, groups of lads. It's just fucking some people's mentality. Why do that? To a vulnerable person, a vulnerable situation, and to urinate on them.
And I'm big on, you don't have to help. Do you know what I mean? You don't, like, even when I was setting things up and asking people, there were some people like, why should I help? You don't have to. If you don't help, I'm not going to have a go at you for it. That's up to you. Do you know what I mean? If you want to help. But you don't need to go and attack people. Do you know what I mean? No. I think if I saw that now, I'd get quite irate.
Oh, I would. My professional hat would come straight off,
Yeah. I'll tell you where else I slept. So I was thinking about this. How do I word this one? Me and a couple of friends acquired a boat.
Oh, you said this last time.
This was when I was about 18. So it was around that period that I was in Slough. And this is a few people have asked, like, one of the questions a few people have asked is, do you ever miss it? And I've said, there's times where, of course, there's certain bits that I look back and think, how free was I then? We'd acquired this boat on the River Thames, and it was like a 5-berth thing. And, for about 6 weeks, it was summer, and we were just up and down the Thames on a boat without a care in the world. We weren't even signing on at this point. Do you know what I mean? Anything we needed, we went and acquired from shops. So our food we were acquiring.
So you shoplifted?
Well, hey, listen. Word it how you want. Is it shoplifting if you haven't been caught for it? So all I'm saying, this was back in the day during the times where I was getting into a lot of trouble. But that was our lives at the time. We were homeless, but we'd ended up on a boat on the Thames, living free, sunny, chilling. So I've slept in some good places.
You can't moan about that, can you? You can't say, that's like that's not a bad experience. That's a nice summer.
So
in the situation that you were in, living at the time, the circumstances you were going through, that was respite, man. You know what I mean? That was
that was a break from the crap bits. And everyone that I've spoken to that was homeless for a long period and sort of ended up in that kind of the lifestyle of homelessness, everyone's admitted that there's certain times where they miss certain parts of it. Do you know what I mean? The sort of the carefreeness of it. I had no bills. Really all you had were two problems: food, somewhere to stay. That was it.
Do you know what? If you take the drugs, the alcohol and that away, the people, the places, I've had some epic times and stayed in some, even though I was on the streets with some good people, safe people. The community on the streets was tight, and even if you didn't have a roof between you, you're always safe together in numbers, and we found something decent, So like Street Station, you'll see the image that I sent you of Old Street Station. Down that stairwell was one, not alone did I beg, but then they got about 5 or 6 tunnels, and we used to sleep in the middle, and we had a little place on the offside where the fruit and veg used to go.
Dog fight.
You all right? Oh, so my missus just running through the house naked. As you do.
Well, I was thinking, where else did I
No,
say?
yeah, but that was like Old Street.
Yeah. That's I can't. I mean, and then there were times where during the summer we would just sleep out in Windsor Park, and literally just bed down. Literally, it was hot enough to just lie down and crash out for a few hours and then get up at sunlight. Some of the worst places that I've slept are hostels. If I was to be homeless again tomorrow, like I was saying, I'd go and live off grid. I would go and get a tent and I would go and live in the middle of nowhere. I wouldn't even entertain, and I'm not saying it isn't for everybody, but for me personally, I wouldn't entertain a hostel ever again because
especially
it was so rough. Do you know what I mean? It was so, you had to be on your toes, and I was always fighting. And at the time, I was not even 8 stone. And I remember when I got to Bristol, I got refused a hostel, and they said, "Oh, it's because we've looked and we've heard that you've got a history of violence." And I was like, I'm just trying not to get my ass kicked.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's all it is. I'm not violent. I turn up at these hostels. I'm 5'6". I weigh not even 8 stone. As soon as I get there, people are like, "When you gyro," do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've seen people getting marched to the cash point or whatever, or marched down on their gyro day and having it all taken off them. And I was always like, that can't happen to me. So I'm just going to fight and try and not get my ass kicked. And fair few times, Nassie will attest to this. A fair few times I got my ass absolutely kicked, but I look back and think I'm glad I was like that because I saw some horrible things. I saw some real.
So when like they do, we take off a shooter point in the hostel, there you go, he's all right, he's got a roof, mate. From my point of view, from my perspective, I went to go and get in a fight. I never got in any fight, but I was more vulnerable to the bullies, like the people who used to go looking for your gyro, for your gear.
Yeah.
And when you've got someone that wants a bit of crack or wants a bit of gear and knows you've got money, it was unsafe. I felt unsafe
I have to say this, right? I have to say this as well because I'm talking about it. I can't pretend that I didn't turn into one of those people as well. Do you know what I mean? There's no point in me sitting here saying, "Oh yeah, I was fighting because I was scared." There were points where I was as bad as everybody, and I was, for want of a C word, to some of the sort of less. What's the word that I'm looking for? Less sort of mentally strong.
See you next Tuesday.
Yeah, I was horrible to people.
All right, ladies and gents, guys and girls, if you like the content, please go on our YouTube channel and subscribe and share. Really appreciate it. Thank you. So yeah, I remember basically knowing sometimes when people's paydays were and linking up with them on the night time, knowing in the morning we're going to the post office just get a sorter. What I mean? Get your bit of gear and that, get your beers.
Yeah.
Get what you're getting. Well, for yourself, it would be in other things.
Yeah, it wasn't always horrible though. We all used to know when each otother's gyro day was.
Oh yeah, some we bounced off, but
sort everybody out. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's my gyro boy. It's got my gyro. Let's go get some stuff. I'll get you breakfast, mate. Do you want a pasty? I'll get you a pasty.
Yeah, king for a day, idiot for a fortnight.
Yeah. So so I've seen some bad things in hostels. But again, that's not to say that all hostels are bad because I also know some people that it worked for. I don't know. It's hard to explain why it didn't work for me. I don't know. I think I was too emotionally immature anyway. I know that the manageress. Well, she wasn't a manageress when I first lived in that hostel in Slough. A woman started working there, and she wants to come on to the podcast at some point. That'd be interesting because it'd be interesting to see what it was like from their point of view.
This is me Rolly, by the way. It is a Rolly.
Right. Okay. Also, the other thing is that at the time I look back and think to myself, we used to act like the staff at the hostel were against us, like they were sort of part of the system, if you know what I mean, and we used to rebel against them. And now I think to myself, surely they went and got that job because they were wanting to do something good, and they thought, "Oh, I know, I'll go and work at a hostel for the homeless. That'd be a really revouring experience."
No, but the thing is, there was good staff. But there wasn't enough on site to cover the people. Cover the people that were in there for the supported care and the duty of care that they should have when you go in supported housing. There wasn't enough staff there, mate.
Where else did I live? Sorry, yeah. The worst hostel that I ever lived was the last time I smoked heroin. I think we touched on this before.
Yeah,
And
Temple Meads.
Temple Meads Hostel, and you came down to visit as well because it was when it was in Bristol, and that was when, yeah, that was when I was as far into heroin as I was going to get. It was becoming, well, my life had already plummeted. I was a heroin user. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't physically addicted, but I was definitely a heroin user. My lifestyle was that of a heroin user, and that was when I got to that hostel. And then, yeah, there was that sign in the communal bit: no gouching out in a communal area.
See, when you said that last time, that brought me
Yeah,
that flashback because I
yeah.
remember
I
that.
just, for those that don't know, when you see a heroin user and they're sat doing this and they're as into the heroin as possible, that's what is known.
As a gouch.
Yeah, no, in the industry, that's what's known as a gouch. They're gouching out, and yeah, you weren't allowed to do that in the communal area of this hostel. It was specifically requested that you went and did that in your room away from everybody. And yeah, I remember showing you that. Like, what is this place? It was so bad. It was so rough. It was. I wouldn't even say it was rough, as in there was nothing intimidating about it from the other people, but it was just minging. Do you know what I mean? It was just a hostel full of heroin addicts that were all being told off because they were still gouching in the communal area. Of course they were. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been a need for a sign. Do you know what I mean? But I remember that's where I woke up with withdrawal symptoms. I woke up through the night and had withdrawal symptoms in my arms, and I was in pain. And it's the only time I felt it. And then, yeah, I chinned it all off the next day and ran away back to Newcastle.
Well, one of the biggest moments for me, lad, was a bin shed, right? Now,
Yeah.
you got the Barbican. The Barbican area is quite posh.
Yeah.
And you had a place called the Shakespeare Pub on Goswell Road.
Right.
Underneath there was a car park, underground car park. But it was clean and everything. But the reason I remember this place, mate, because that's where the last time I tried to kill myself.
Right.
And I put basically I had my mattress, I had everything like that. And a security guard used to come now and again and give me a sandwich. I knew when he'd come, he'd give me a sandwich, a cup of tea, and he went. And that was one of my lowest points as well. It was when I was with Becky, and I was a bit of an arsehole being with Becky. You know, when she was serving up and that, I'd fuck off for days and that.
Yeah.
And I remember having 10 bags of heroin, and I put them all in the spoon. But, you know, because of the crackhead I was at the time,
Yeah.
I believe this is what saved me. I put a £10 rock in there as well.
Right.
And I'd done that. And then literally, I woke up, it was daylight, late afternoon the next day. And I came around and I thought, what the Buck Rogers is just, what have I just done? Sort of thing.
Was that an attempt to kill yourself? Is that
yeah,
what that
mate.
was?
Enough was enough. That was a point where that was my lowest, like in myself and everything.
And also, I just noticed that you said that was the last time you tried. So
yeah,
I'm assuming there were a few times.
Yeah, I'm going to send you the pictures over. So when I was in the care home, Henderson Road is another place. The first time, so I've got the picture of the first time I hung myself. So I went there a few days ago to the care home. It was a bit of closure for me. Donated 50 Easter eggs to them. Thanks to North East Homeless. And they let me have a little walk around. And I took some photographs of the place, like my room I used to be in, and the shower room I first ever tried to hang myself in.
How old were you then?
Well, I would have known you then, mate. So I'd been about 15-year-old. That picture I sent of you, of me, and then the one next to it in the care home, that was that age.
Yeah.
That was that age, mate. So I remember my first time I got the picture of the care home, and I got the last time I attempted, which was, I can't get the image on Google Earth because it's an underground car park, but I've got the image of the Shakespeare pub, which is just directly underneath.
Yeah. Sad, yeah. I mean, that's not something I've ever attempted. It's not something. So I've never been. I mean, yeah, I've been very low, but I've never actually attempted suicide. Obviously, as you know, my mum committed suicide. So
I know, brother. I know.
I think maybe there's something there that I'm quite. Who knows? We'll get onto that. That's another topic.
It is. No, it is. But that's one of the places I've stayed in, which I remember being okay, but at a point in time it wasn't okay because that's the place I was out the way. No one was going to find me. I remember when the security guard came around, and if I didn't put that rock in, I think it's that rock that saved me. Or the gear was really, really shit. More than likely, the gear was really, really shit. You know, because it was shit at the time.
Who
But
knows what it was?
either way, that was that one. That was
it's just,
Barbican.
I don't know. Yeah, somehow you're still here.
I am.
And now you got your new place, mate. Which
this is. I mean, I haven't got the wallpaper on yet, but I've only been here just over a month.
Just to clarify, that it's a new place and you've got to get the wallpaper. And I've been, I tell you what, like joining the Navy, that's ended for the last 10 years. It just instantly ended any kind of vulnerability because I get a married quarter and I've lived in nice places. The first place was Yeovil, little 2-bedroom flat. My wife and me hadn't had children. Then she fell pregnant, and then we decided that we wanted to move down to Cornwall, try Cornwall out. So we moved down to Cornwall and we got a house, and we were there for 5 years, and we had both of our children there. And then that was a night. It was an all right house. It had some damp. That's not the MOD's fault. That's just the area that we were in. And then to be honest, I love that house. Like we said, we have both our kids there, so it's one of the things. It's just down the road from where I live now. And then we moved from there to Titchfield, just outside of Portsmouth, in between just next to Fareham is. And we had a lovely little house there. I didn't really like the area because I'd become countrified, but again, the house was spot on and just no drama. Do you know what I mean? I don't worry about anything. My rent goes out, my wage. I've got to get, because I put my notice in. I've got to get used to paying rent and all that again. I've been out the housing game for 10 years. Like, it's just been a breeze. But I think that break has really set me up for the future, as in, there's been I'm aware that you've got to pay your rent and all that.
Just keep that ahead. Keep ahead on that one.
I've got so used to actually having somewhere to live and not worrying about it that can't be an option anymore. So now I'm back in Cornwall. Hopefully we're going to stay here.
Well, as I said, we can talk about this all night, about different places and that. But as I said, my final destination, as you can see, got me a nice little bungalow.
Back in South Shields.
So, mate, exactly what, mate, I love it. I can go at the back of my house, go to the top of Clean Hill and look over the town. I love, man. And I do, as much as I might have thought I hated it as a young kid, I appreciate it now I come back from the fast pace of life.
Listen, like I said at the beginning, South Shields is where I class as, my home. I love visiting South Shields. Yeah.
I know what you're going to say. Yes.
I love leaving South Shields more.
Nope.
But no, all joking, I'm homesick. I haven't been home in age because of COVID. The last time I was up was a year ago, November. I think that's right, Nassie. I think that's right. A year ago, November, I was up. And I usually come up a couple of times a year and I haven't made it. I went back to Slough recently for the first time in ages. I visited my cousin and I got off, not at Slough, he lives in Burnham, just next to Slough. And I got off the train, right? And he came to visit me. He came to meet me at the train. I got off the train. We walked up to the shop so I could grab a bite to eat. 5 minutes into the walk up to the shop, a load of police cars came flying past us. And we joked saying, I've been back for 5 minutes. Right? Then we walked 5 minutes further up after I'd got my sandwich from the shop. All these police cars were outside of a house, and we was like, what's going on there? We got back to my cousin's house. He checked the news, and somebody had been stabbed in that house. And I was like, I've been back in Slough for 10 minutes. 10 minutes, and somebody's...
That's what it's like down there.
I am 100% countrified now. I don't want to live anywhere else other than the countryside. And I think that's all of our places we've stayed.
I'm home.
Ricky G
I'm
and
home.
LC.
Yeah, man. That's it.
Quickly then, what were those questions?
I have got a couple of questions. I'll pick a couple out and we'll do the rest next time. But it's from a colleague of mine at North East Homeless, who's watched our podcast and fired a few questions at me. So one of them, Ricky, is if 16-year-old you could have a conversation with the world to make things change, what would it be and would you have it?
If 16-year-old me could have a conversation with the world.
Yeah.
I don't know, because trouble is at 16, I don't know, you think that everything's normal. Even if you're in a terrible situation, you think that's normal, don't you? Somebody asked me recently, how comes, like, when you were in school, how comes you didn't let us, like, tell us all, like, how bad it was at home and stuff? And I was like, well, that's easy to answer. I didn't know it was bad. Do you know what I mean? So at 16, even though yeah, I'd just been made homeless. I was surrounded by lots of people that were, you know, it wasn't like I was the only person. Like what you said, we was all bouncing off each other and sort of looking after each other. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I needed completely removed from the situation. There should be something. There should be something. I fell through the cracks. You know what I mean?
So I was one of those that fell through the cracks of the system. I think my 16-year-old self would tell the world that I need direction, need nurturing, I need
tell you what,
discipline.
when I think about it, the trouble is this is me. Obviously, at 16, I didn't know this. I would have said, "Look, I'm still a child. Like, I get it. I'm
Let
not
me
a
be
little
a
kid.
child.
I'm not a little kid, but I'm only 16, and I'm now all of a sudden thrust into a completely adult world. And also things like this. This is what makes me realize that at 16 years old, I was living the same as all the other adults in the bed and breakfast as me, but they got more money because they were older than me. So the thing was, at 16, you only get, I think it was £26.50 a gyro a week.
Yeah.
You used to go and pick it up from Chichester. This is when you used to get cash as well, you know. Cash, you used to go and pick up this flipping brown paper bag of cash, £26.50. You used to get a gyro and cash it there and then on the spot. But if you were older, you'd get like 30 odd quid. And it's like, well, hang on, I'm living the same life. And it's the same now. If you're younger, you get less housing benefit than you do if you're older. And it's like, well, what's the difference? We're both living in the same place. We've both got the same life. Why is it if you're 16, you get less housing benefit? How does that work? How does that not make your life harder as a 60? Yeah, so that would have been my thing. I would have said to the world, look, I'm still a bit of a child here. Is there any chance you could sort of maybe more of a child and help me out?
Help me out. So on the back end of that, now going through what you've been through, where you are now, what would you say to your younger self? What bit of advice would you give to your younger self?
Learn to like your own company.
Yeah, man. I feel that. That's one of my answers. Yeah.
Find
yourself.
Learn to like your own company. That will take, because I like my own company. Back then, a lot of it's loneliness. You don't want to sort of just be sitting on your own in a room. But then that sort of puts you in a vulnerable position because of that loneliness and because of the situation you're in. You end up hanging around with people that you probably wouldn't hang around with. Do you know what I mean? That would be it. Learn to like your own company. Don't rely on other people to help you. People do help you, and I got through life by people helping me lots and lots of times. But we spoke about this as well, especially think this is the case with you. And I know it's the case with me, but it was only when people saw that I was really genuinely trying to help myself as much as possible in all earnest that all of a sudden people were happy to put themselves out and help me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like with the Navy, when I turned up and I was so honest, like, please help me out. I'm trying my hardest here, but I'm bouncing from rubbish job to rubbish job because of the situation I'm in. As soon as they got that I was trying my hardest, that was it. But you try your hardest if you're depending on others to help you out. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I'm rambling, man. But I'm a rambler.
No, that's cool, man. So for me, if I was going to tell my younger self something, would be patient.
Yeah.
Tomorrow does come, and tomorrow can better things, and don't do things on impulse. Don't act on your instant thoughts. When you think, listen to what you've just been told or just been asked, and then think about the question or the answer you're going to give back.
Yeah.
Do
you know the other thing I'd say?
Yeah, go on, bro.
Don't do drugs.
Yeah. I was going to get to that. Yeah. So basically, don't give your peers. You don't have to fit in. You don't have to fit in this world.
Get fit. Fitness is the big thing that changed my life.
It is, but no, I'm saying you don't have to fit in, because a lot of things.
I know you're saying fit, but I'm just saying that instead of drugs, if only I'd found the sort of addiction, if you like, of the gym that I found in my mid-20s. In my mid-20s, I took up boxing, and it wasn't to box. I'm a pretty lousy boxer. I know what I'm doing in the ring, but put me in with a boxer and I'll get my head punched in. But do you know what I mean? I took up boxing, and it got me really fit, and that changed everything. So yeah, the confidence that comes with it, the lifestyle, the fact that you're not just ploughing yourself with drugs. Yeah, so I don't know. I said that I had nothing to say, but now all of a sudden I've got loads of things.
That's cool, man. But listen,
anyway.
This is the last one. The last one.
Yeah.
All right. So why do you think that the two of you are still standing? What personal factors about yourselves do you think have contributed to your ability to stay alive? And were there anything about people around you contributed to your survival?
Yeah, it's a very in-depth question.
It is. If you could answer it, that's cool.
No, I'm good to answer it. Even now, something that got picked up not long ago, the woman that I handed the charity that I set up, I handed over to, she's just left the Navy now, but she was a lieutenant commander. And recently she picked up on something that I'm never settled. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's a weakness in a lot of ways. I'm never settled. I'm always wanting to move on and do something else. But I think that played a big part in why I never just accepted that this was my lot. I was always hopeful, you know, maybe I'm just an optimist. I was always hopeful that something was around the corner. I've always had a good sense of humor. I've always been able to laugh about things. I've always been a bit of a clown, do you know what I mean? And like make people, I think that helped massively. The last bit, did people help me? Absolutely. It's weird because even throughout all of my trouble, and when I was a bad person kind of thing, my core friend unit, including the producer's son, including the producer's dad, like Nassie's my best mate. None of my friends, like my actual proper hardcore friends, none of them were living the same life as me. Do you know what I mean? So I've always been, like, my core friends have always been very nice people. I've never hung around with horrible people. I was always sort of the fuck up, if you like, out of the group of people that I was with. It was always me. So yeah, I think that helped as well. The fact that I've always been surrounded by pretty decent people when it's really got to the core level, you know.
Well, for myself, I think it's because I knew, because every year, Ricky, I did try to come away from the addiction. I tried to detox and I didn't work with the 14 detoxes and that, but I knew what I get in the end. Couldn't look at myself in the mirror, but when I did look at myself, that I knew I was better than that, you know. And every day pushed me, because I knew that one day I'd come away from it and I'd find myself again. And just the actual fight of survival on the street, me manners as well. Me manners, mate. Me nana always said to me, keep your manners, always have your manners and you'll be all right. And that's one thing how I held myself. I wasn't really an aggressive person, especially like when I was on the streets, you know. I kept my manners, me please and thank yous, respected people. Even though I didn't respect myself, I always respected others. And I weren't an arsehole on the street. Me fight was there in me, but the drug beating it out of me, and I was lucky to get out of it when I did, because I think if I didn't get out of it when I did, I think I wouldn't be here today, bud. And that's true. And that's seriously, if I didn't do what I did that night to get me and Becky away and kick ourselves up the arse, you know, I don't think I would be here, or Becky would be here tonight, mate, you know.
I was still surprised you did. Like I said before, I was talking to somebody who'd seen the first podcast. I was talking to them and I was like, I don't understand. I didn't think that guy was coming back. Do you know what I mean? I was always willing to come and say hello because we're such old friends. I thought, well, that's it, you know, he'll be like that until he ODs somewhere.
The strength was naturally built into me from a young age, you know, carry on fighting each day. But as I said, when I tried to overdose the last time, low of averages and fucking a bit of crack saved me. And low of average, I shouldn't be here. But yeah, you know.
But here we are.
And I think that's, again, I wouldn't change any of that, because it's given me the strength I am today. Yeah.
Right. I think we've covered places stayed and stuff. Like, what I was going to say, if you're watching, give it a like, give it a share, subscribe to the YouTube channel, please. And hopefully we've got a couple of special guests coming up, but we can't say anything yet.
No, not yet.
But fingers crossed we pull that off. That'd be good. And it'd just be more of the same. I know I've got a couple of people that want to come on. Probably start editing out from here, Josh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got a couple of friends that want to come on. That'd be good. Oh God, edit that fart out.
Devin, edit that. Leave that there. He deserves that. He deserves that.
Yeah.